We were talking about the Met Police tactics to stop moped crime. You may have seen videos of them ramming suspects off the road. The Met say there's been a 36% reduction in thefts involving mopeds since the tactics were adopted last year. Last night we spoke to Peter Kirkham, the former Met Police Detective Inspector.
There's some danger involved, yes, but it's proportionate. And if they don't want to create the danger, there's a very simple answer. When the police indicate to them to stop, stop. It's simple. Beyond that, they create the dangerous situation that others then have to try and deal with. The risk to them, in my view, should be discounted.
We've spoken to one lawyer tonight, Peter, who says it's only a matter of time until one of these riders sues for compensation.
Let them try.
But Peter, the police tactics is to knock the suspects off their bikes even if they're not wearing a helmet.
Yep.
Now, somebody could die from that.
Yep. They chose to take the helmets off. They take them off and throw them away. They throw them at the police car. What are we going to do? Just let them ride away into the sunset with their machetes and with their stolen phones? Here's what 5 Live listeners Mike and Ian told me last night.
I think the police officers are dead right. About time somebody stood up to these scumbags robbing and injuring people all the time for their benefit. Why can't they have it done back to them? Hit the buggers hard, I say. That's the only way they'll learn.
Let's not fight fire with fire, right? The top and bottom of it is, what you're doing is not minimal force, it's maximum force, and it's basically borderline murder. That's what it is.
I saw the footage on the news. I thought it was a brilliant idea. These kids will see this on the television. I think, oh, I'm not having none of that.
Well, Nick Freeman is a criminal defence lawyer. You may have heard of him referred to as Mr. Loophole. Hello, Nick.
Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening. And Steve Berry's a motoring journalist and biker. Hello, Steve.
Good evening.
What do you make, Steve, of the police openly now saying, publicly saying, they're going to ram these people off their bikes?
Good. You'll find very few people that disagree with this tactic. But one of the problems for me is that it's the police who have to look at their conduct in this as to how we got into this situation. And one of the biggest problems is that they had started to treat motorcycle theft as though it was something like throwing a McDonald's wrapper on the pavement. I have had 4 separate incidents of motorcycle attempted theft or theft in the last year. A friend of mine who operates a business in the centre of Manchester has had the same motorcycle stolen 3 times in a year. 3 times. Each time, these thefts happened in broad daylight. There's a video of some guy stealing a motorcycle in Manchester, not very far from where you guys are right now, in broad daylight, just there with a angle grinder and just taking the thing. The police have not taken motorcycle and scooter. Can we please stop saying moped? Nobody's made a moped since the 1970s. They're motorcycles and scooters. They haven't taken a theft and crime seriously enough, and it got to the situation where it is now. Thankfully, they decided to do something about it. And I agree with every single word that your interviewee from last night said. Every single word.
Nick Freeman, if you were defending someone who had been rammed off their moped by a police officer, what would you be doing? What would you be saying?
Well, I think we need to turn the argument around, Stephen, because what we're looking at here, that the person who we would be defending is the person who knocked him off the bike, not the person who's been knocked off the bike. Because when a police officer knocks somebody off a bike, he's driving dangerously. And there's no special exemption for the police. So every time that happens, the first thing is they're driving dangerously from a criminal perspective.
Well, not if they're doing it deliberately in order to save other people's lives, they're not.
No, well, they're not. They are doing it deliberately. It's driving which falls below the standard of care, well below the standard of care of the ordinary competent and prudent driver, and the risks are that there's likely to be serious injury or damage. So it falls within the definition. There's no difference, Stephen, between you or I driving our car and knocking someone off a motorcycle and then the police doing it. The police have power to apprehend. They can use reasonable force. That does not extend to ramming them. Now, I understand completely the public reaction, which is these guys get exactly what they deserve. And I'm not passing any comment about that. I'm not expressing a view about that. But as a lawyer, the police, like everybody else, has to comply with the rule of law. That governs us. and the statutes that apply to you and I also apply to the police. So the first thing is the police are driving dangerously. The second thing is there may well be an assault, any injury, depending on the degree, the severity of the injury. It may be actual bodily harm, serious bodily harm, or even worse. And that's completely apart from the civil side of things, damages for any injuries sustained.
Yeah, but Nick, I don't understand how, if a police officer has learned how to do this through their training, then obviously it is an acceptable practice by the police to do it. They're trained to do it. If then there's a public interest in them doing it, in that they're trying to stop someone from causing death or serious injury to a member of the public as they're racing along the road.
That's not the purpose. That's not the purpose, Stephen.
Well,
they're not doing it to prevent
that's what the police
crime.
would argue is the purpose, to prevent further crime.
No, well, the purpose of them doing it is to apprehend the suspect. The crime has already been committed, and their target is the suspect, who they have reasonable cause to believe has committed the crime. They want to apprehend him. They can't get him, so they'll knock him off his bike or his motorcycle or scooter, as Stephen says. That is a criminal action. The police are not allowed to embark upon that criminal course of conduct. So all I'm saying is, yes, on one hand you applaud the police, and I'm sure many members of the public will go further and say, don't just knock them off, run them over, do whatever. These people deserve it. I'm commentating from a legal perspective, and what I'm saying is their action is unlawful, both criminally and civilly, and that is the difficulty.
Steve Perry?
All the police are trying to do is their job. We're sick of seeing this crime wave escalate. And when you've got a situation where people are prosecuting crime, and in the course of that crime, they are engaging in a course of action which they believe will lead to the police abandoning any attempt to catch them and to apprehend them, then that situation has to be dealt with. It had become common currency amongst these people that if they chose to flee, if they discarded their crash helmets, the police would not attempt to catch them. And so that's what they do. So we find ourselves in, because they don't know how to ride a real motorcycle. They're scumbags. They're not motorcyclists. And as a motorcyclist and somebody who's spent his entire life and his career promoting the use of powered two-wheelers, motorcycles and scooters, to see motorcycles used in such a way just for crime as a weapon against the rest of the public, I'm just glad that the police have started to react in this way. And I'll tell you what, the more it's talked about now, the more that these videos go viral, you'll see this. You'll see it just disappear.
Surely
It'll
the police
just stop happening.
Surely, Nick Freeman, the police lawyers would have checked this before allowing them to do it.
Well, you heard the response that you played on your show. I mean, that the reality is the vast majority of crime goes undetected. The police, unfortunately, for whatever reason, whether it's burglaries, whether it's theft, whether it's this, whether it's that, they don't appear to be interested other than giving you a crime reference number. That's the reality. I could take this argument to a further conclusion and say, look, if you want to get rid of knife crime, send the SA into certain areas in London and take out perpetrators of drug gangs. That'll get rid of it. But we don't. We have to comply with the rule of law, and they're not entitled to engage in this conduct. And I also ought to draw your attention to the fact that, there was a 10-year-old boy who was involved in this sort of conduct. Are we seriously suggesting that we knock people like that off, whether they deserve it or not, and with the possible consequences?
Okay. Listen,
and what about all the innocent people who are going to be caught?
Interesting conversation, Nick. Thank you, Steve Berry. Thank you. 08